Hello, everyone. Hello, DGRE family, and hello, guests. Brian Holly here. And for those of you who may not know, I am president of Darcorp Management. First thing I'd like to do is just say welcome and extend a well wishes to each and every one of you. We truly hope that you and your families are staying safe as we continue to navigate the challenges of the pandemic. We also hope to be honest with you, we just have so much going on at DGRE and Darcorp as we continue to look for opportunities for our partners and also striving for ever improving performances from the properties. Now, I'm going to be your host tonight. David Tuttle will be on the line with me tonight and will assist in this presentation. And while Darwin will not be here in person, Darwin will still make a cameo recorded appearance and provide a message. But again, David Tuttle is going to be on the line with me to help me answer questions and is going to be able to speak about the fantastic progress we've made on the raise for the Oakview opportunity and just give us an update on what's going on there. So let's get started. Again, welcome everyone for joining us tonight. And before we look at tonight's agenda, I would just like you to know that we do have an exciting announcement toward the end of the webinar that I believe will excite many of you. So stay tuned with us for this announcement as we get toward the end. Without further ado, let's move on to the agenda. And the first item on our business is an Oakview update. And as I said before, Darwin's going to make a cameo appearance by giving us a short recorded video message. And then David will be on hand to give us just a brief update on that opportunity as well. We will then move into the portfolio updates. And I'm just going to say up front that, while we completely understand that sometimes reviewing property performance numbers is not the most exciting thing you could probably be doing on a Tuesday night, I would tell you that we feel it is absolutely critical that we keep you, the owners, up to date with your investments. So just want you to be aware of that that's really what this is intended for. We know you're taking valuable time out of your evening and other things that you could be doing because you want to be kept up to date on your investments, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with these webinars. Third, I'll just continue great news about property distributions from the Darwin German real estate team. Then, as I referenced a minute or so ago, we'll have an announcement that I truly believe will be well received by many of you. And of course, at the end, we will have a question and answer session where we will attempt to answer any and all questions that you may have. If we cannot answer tonight or we don't get to it, I promise you that we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So please feel free anytime during this presentation to type in your questions, and we'll attempt to answer all of those at the end of the presentation. Now, all of you should have received, or if you're on our list, you would have received an email announcement from Darwin, a video recorded message from Darwin in regards to our Oakview opportunity. That went out, I believe, on Saturday morning. So if you haven't received it, that's okay. I'm going to show it to you here in a minute. But the announcement was that we have made a final decision to not use any private equity money in the financing of the Oakview acquisition. And without further ado, I'm going to allow Darwin to explain to you why we made that decision and why we truly feel it is in the best interest of the partner.
Hello, Darwin German here, coming to you from our training center here in Irving, Texas. I've got some big news for you. Two different points. One is Oakview. We were going to raise $10,850,000 for that, and we were going to augment that with private equity, a big firm that would invest a whole lot of capital. However, the demands that they put on that capital add additional risk to our partners. So because of the tremendous amount of demand we've had for this investment, we don't have to use the private equity. We would rather not, because that lowers the risk for our partners right now by not having that private equity. So in the last 30 days, we've already raised over $8 million in the first 30 days. So because of that demand, we're going to get rid of using the private equity, and we're going to go ahead and raise the rest of the amount to $10,850,000. So we only have about 30 spots left. So we're ready to have you invest in that and finish up those last 30 spots. So like I said, $8 million in less than 30 days is what we've done so far. So great success, great demand. And I think part of that demand for having that investment is most of our properties are still, even during this COVID time, paying out distributions, and they're all performing better than they did back in November and December. So we're doing better now, even with COVID, than we did back then. So make sure to get your investment in. We've only got about 30 spots left, and thank you so much for joining us.
David, you want to jump in here real quick?
Sure. So our original equity raise target was $10,850,000. We'll call it 11 million, just conversation. So our target was to raise $5 million in partner equity, which is you guys, and to utilize a private equity lender for about $6.5 million. So we set out to do that. July 2nd, we rolled this deal out. In about 3 weeks, we hit the $5 million mark. And so we bumped the goal up to $6.5 million. And that's when we sent out an email that said we were 90% funded. Well, we are now at $9 million after about a total of 5 weeks. And again, the total raise is $10,850,000, so just under 11 million. So at this point, we feel like we've got about 20 spots left at $100,000 per spot, and we feel like we can raise the additional $2 million that we need and close out the private equity. If we need the private equity, it's worth the price that we have to pay. If we can raise the money ourselves through partnership investments, then we'd rather not use the private equity, because the price that we pay to use it are lower cash on cash returns the first 2 years. That's a real basic summary of what the trade-off is. So this way we maintain our cash on cash returns beginning the first year. In this property, we'll start disbursements probably the second or third accounting cycle. So there's no need to use private equity. We plan on using private equity in the future. We've got some good relationships, and it's a great tool to use when we need it. But in this case, there seems to be enough appetite within the partnership group to take this one down. And here's what's interesting. The $9 million that we've raised up to this point in a little over 5 weeks has come from 75 different partners. 16 of those partners are first-time investors with Darwin real estate investments. That's about 22%. So 22% of our investors on this deal are brand new investors to our family. That means that we have 55 people that have invested with us previously who are also planning on investing in us. That's a pretty small number of people relative to all the people that have invested with us over the years. So again, we feel like we can raise that last $2 million. We've got a lot of folks who said they're interested. If you are interested, please call me or email me tomorrow, and let's get you through an IMS account set up if you're new, or if you need some help getting through the e-signature process, the self-accreditation process. I can get you through that. And Garrett Stroud, who works with me, can also help you. So that's it, Brian.
Okay, thank you, David. And again, we'll get if you haven't seen Darwin's message, we'll get that out to you. But as David summarized, we just feel like it's absolutely the right thing to do. As you know, our motto is best interest of the partner. And at this time on this particular property, this is absolutely the right decision to make. I'm going to stay on Oakview real quickly, if you don't mind. And as I'm sure that all of you are aware, and if those of you who are not, Darcourt Management took over the management of Oakview as of July 1st. This is a really unique opportunity for us, where we're actually taking over management of a property about 100 days before we actually take ownership of the property. Just great negotiating on Darwin's part, and it really pays dividends not only for us, but for you as partners, because it allows us to be on the property 100 days, again, prior to change of ownership, address any issues that may need to be addressed that typically we would not find out until after we got on site. And it allows us, even more importantly, and I'm going to show you a few numbers here, allows us more importantly to put, our touch on it, to be honest with you. And I'm bragging a little bit, but put our touch on it means that we believe we provide better management than most management companies. And I'm going to show you some numbers here why that's absolutely justified. Also want to let you know that we hosted a property tour in July. We were thrilled to see over 50 of you come out. We practiced social distancing, but we were able to show the property off, and had a great time, and we appreciate those of you who were able to make it. And we'll have additional opportunities for that as we move forward. But here's what I really want to show you. Keep in mind that the slide you're seeing shows you April, May, June, and July numbers. Darcorp took over on July 1st. So the numbers you see from April, May, and June are from the previous management company. And what I want to point out to you is that in the first month of operation, I want to show you that the income in July was about $18,000 higher in July than the previous management company was able to get in June. I will also tell you it's absolutely the highest by about $10,000. May was their previous high in 2020. So even compared to May, we're still about $10,000 over income in our first 30 days of management versus any previous month from the previous management. You'll also see that the expenses were lowered by about $5,000 our first month on the property. And of course, you know what that does to the net operating income, which took us from about 209, which was their previous high in June, to about 233 in July. You can see I did not get their delinquency numbers for April and May. I'm not sure why they wouldn't want to share them, but in June they had about 3,500 delinquency, which is still a good job. But as you see, Darcorp was able to better that by about 50%. So a little less than $1,500 delinquency in July. Now, just real quickly talking about these numbers, what does that mean to you as a potential investor? As I said, expenses up about 18,000. Income up about 18,000, expenses down by about 5,000, which made the NOI greater by about $23,500 in the month of July, first month we were there. As you know, the NOI divided by the cap rate equals your value. So just as an example, and again, we understand this is just a 130-day picture, but we'll be excited to share this information with you in September, so you'll now have a 2-month snapshot. But if Darcorp were able to replicate that performance over a full year, that would be a value increase of over $5 million over the previous management performance. So you can see why it's just one of the reasons that we're truly excited about the potential for Oakview. Having said that, and we'll be glad to answer any questions as we go, but I'm going to get in and to be sensitive of your time and talk about portfolio updates. And I'll go through this as quickly as I can, but it's just, again, to give you an idea of what's happening. Amber Vista, again, you can see our occupancy was a little bit lower in July, but our income only suffered slightly. We're still a little over 106 in income. Expenses was really about average. If you remember, in June, we had some significant expenses in June that blew that number out of the water and reduced our NOI for the month. But as you can see, April and May were right back in line in July. Net operating income, again, in the high 40s, just under 50,000. And give you an idea, we do see an improvement in the rent delinquency. You see 7, 8, 8, and we were down to just less than $5,000 delinquent in July. So again, still really good trend, still really good performance from the properties. Brookside, as you can see, occupancy remains very, very high. In fact, it's high to the point where we will consider, even in this day of pandemic, we'll start talking about rent increases, because when you're consistently over 95%, you really need to think about bumping your rents up. But as you can see, just a steady increase from April, 270, 275, 279 to 288 in July. Expenses also back down where we would expect them to be, in the high 130s, 140 range, with your net operating income a bit, again, here in the mid 140s. Again, just really good improvement from, for those of you who are invested in Brookside, you can see the just steady improvement that we're continuing to make, and that's obviously good news for everyone. Rental delinquency, again, which was a major concern for us because of the moratorium eviction, the eviction moratorium, and our inability to evict people who for non-payment, is really under control, and the staff there is just doing an outstanding job. As you can see, 15 to 12 to 6, and a little less than 8,000 in July. So it's never good enough, and we'll always strive to do better, but as you can see, still performing very well at Brookside. Gold Creek, we just continue to see increased performance. You can see the income from the time we took possession of the property in late March. So in April, May, June, and July, you've seen just steady increases in the income as we continue to burn off previous concessions and the stuff that was basically being given away on the property before we got there. Now you're seeing the fruits of that work that has taken place between Vicki and her staff. Expenses a little bit higher, again, due to some R&M issues that we're having to deal with there. Nothing that's out of the ordinary, but it's just something that's cropped up. But we still have net operating income in the high 20s and low 130s. Rent delinquency, again, you can see a slight increase in July, a little bit less than May, but it's a little bit more than June. And again, this is just toward the end of the eviction moratorium as we work through. But again, it's a pretty low number on a property that size. So again, just steady and improved performance at Gold Creek. Riverbend, again, really good turnaround in July from what we were seeing at some income and net operating income reductions that we had seen in April, May, and June. But just due to some extraordinary efforts by Vicki, extraordinary efforts by the staff on site, you can see that July is approaching, July income up over 170, which is actually the third best month at Riverbend ever. Our high of 186, and then back in March we had a 179, but now we see that income trend going back up. Our expenses, again, as I said last month and pointed out, really what I want to talk about there is that it's hard to believe, but we're entering year 4 of the Riverbend project, and keep in mind that we were able to keep expenses really, really low for the first 2 to 3 years because we did a complete rehab of the CapEx project upon acquisition, and the fact that we replaced 100% of the AC systems in late 2018. Those things are still under warranty, but now that you're getting into year 4, you're going to experience, like every property, additional repairs and maintenance that are needed. We will likely be increasing maintenance staff to 2 persons. The additional expenses that you see in June and July are attributable to the additional temp help that we've needed due to the increased expenses in that area. But again, great performance. One of the things that we're really proud of is our overall delinquency. Now, what the delinquency that you see on the screen is the rent delinquency only. Overall delinquency would be the delinquent from the previous month and the previous month and the previous month all added together. But we were able, and the staff, through some extraordinary efforts, able to reduce that overall delinquency, that total delinquency number, by over $20,000 in the month of July. So that's just excellent work by the staff and everybody involved. So again, just really bodes well for the trends that are pointing positive, can continue to be positive for Riverbend. Silver Creek, you still see maintaining mid-90s occupancy. We did take a slight dip in income from 304 in June to just under 300 in July. Again, it's just the end of that process of the eviction moratorium that I'm going to speak to a little bit later, but I'm going to wait till I get through with the property slides. Expenses, again, were slightly higher in July than they had been in the previous month, but we're just staying on top of everything. Your net operating income, again, is steady in the low to mid 140s and even in the 150s. Rent delinquency, again, they did an outstanding job. 12,088 does not sound like a great job, but again, given what the staff is dealing with on a daily basis and people that do not have to pay rent and know that we cannot evict them for that, again, just an outstanding job as we continue to try to make additional improvement for Silver Creek. Silver Creek is absolutely not where we want it to be. It's not where it's going to end up. But it is showing steady performance and steady improvements, and we promise every day to do everything we can on a daily basis to improve that. Just a quick reminder too that the rehab project that was going on at Silver Creek, and this is where we were remodeling and renovating the interior unit. We just were not getting, through this COVID pandemic, we were not getting the rent bump we needed to justify spending that $10,000 to $14,000 for those interior upgrades. So we just put that on hold. That money is still available to us. It can still be accessed when we need it to do more upgrades on our interior units. As we feel that the rent bumps will justify it, we'll absolutely pick that back up and proceed. 19, I know I've said this several months in a row now, but just continues to make great improvement over what it was in 2019. Your occupancy now a little over 97%, income, again, 117, 121, 131, and then just under 139 in July. Expenses, you know, as you lease more and your occupancy goes up, you're going to have more expenses. So they went from the high 50s to the low 60s. Your net operating income, again, which was in the mid to high 50s before, last couple of months have been mid 70s. So just great job there. And again, want to recognize 1019 for their rent delinquency. In July, she is going to close out zero delinquency at 1019. It's just an outstanding job given what everybody's dealing with. I do want to give you a quick update too on the refinance. If you're a partner in 1019 or have been part of these calls, you know that we're currently in the process of refinancing 1019. It has begun. In fact, received news that we anticipate that closing within the next 10 to 14 days. So good news. We estimate that the return of capital to our investors is going to be between 25, 27%, as we notified you on last month's update. And an additional 7 to 8% return of capital will occur in 12 months once the principal and interest escrows are released to us. Those are the reserves that are required for us to make sure we put those 12 months. We have to set those back as part of the refinance. But at the end of 12 months, those are given back to us to use. And of course, that'll be another 7 to 8% return of capital. In addition, the refinance option that we have chosen, the mortgage payment is going to be in the range of $25,000 for the first 2 years. That's interest only for the first 2 years. The current mortgage is about $41,000. So guess what? That's going to significantly increase our cash flow over the first 24 months and allow for bigger distributions. So really good news. We'll have great news to share within the next couple of weeks as we complete that refinance and send money back to each of our partners at 1019, and we look forward to that. I would also point out that this dramatic increase in performance at 1019 has still been achieved without B&B and late fee income. So we only see this improving as we're able to charge late fees, as the eviction moratorium goes away, and as we can continue to fill up our B&B, our Airbnb unit. Valley Center, again, steady performance. Our occupancy hasn't changed much. I'd just like to point out, I've had a few investors call me and ask me how they figured the square footage. Just a reminder that the occupancy in an office building is determined by the rentable square footage, as opposed to the units that are occupied, which is the number that we use when we're dealing with apartments. Again, point out that you see the income is 115, higher than April and May, not as high as in June. But I would remind you, as you'll see at the bottom of the screen, that 17,000 of the June income increase was due to 2019 CAM reconciliation charges being collected. These were charges that were placed on the tenants by the previous management company for 2019 charges that we had to go back and collect. So we were able to collect quite a bit of that in June, still have another big chunk that we've got to collect. But the good news is, even if we don't, and we will collect it, but even if we don't, all of this delinquency is guaranteed by the seller for the first 6 months of ownership. So as we get through September, we will do a true up, and anything that was owed to us by the tenant that was not able to be collected in the first 6 months, we will basically claw that back from the previous owner. So again, great job there. Approximately 85% of the CapEx projects have been completed at Valley Center at significantly under budget. So as I always say at Valley Center, our offices are there now. We're there now. If you're ever in the area, in the Irving area, please stop by. We'd love to show off the building. Villa Creek. Again, you can see just outstanding job on occupancy. Income took a significant jump in July from 162 to 168. That was mainly due to our, as you know, we had 2 tornado buildings at Villa Creek, and those 14 units came back online on the 1st of July, and we were able to start leasing and moving people in. So 7 of those 14 units are now occupied, with 2 more that are currently pre-leased. So we're just going to continue to see good things happen with the income there as we continue to fill up those units that have not been available to us for right at a year. And we are in the final stages of reconciling all of the insurance proceeds for the final settlement. So as you can see, income up in July, expenses down just a little bit in July, net operating income just under $75,000. And again, kudos to the staff at Villa Creek, because this will be 2 months in a row that the manager there, Diana, has closed out with 0 delinquency, which is just hard to believe in the atmosphere we're living today. But he was able to do that in June and July under the leadership of Vicky. So again, great job there going through with Villa Creek continuing to be a steady performer. Halinani, occupancy dropped down to 90%. You can see there's been just a slight decrease in income, April, May, June, and July. Expenses holding steady in the 3s, 4s, and low 5s. Net operating income, as you can see, is just a small decline each month. And the only thing I can tell you about Halinani is just and it really applies to Kainani as well, which I'll talk to in a minute. It's just really seeing some downward trends for Halinani, but it's really just due to the COVID situation on on Maui. As you know, the tourism industry is just absolutely critical to Maui and all of Hawaii for that matter. But the tourism industry has just practically been halted for the past 4 months as they have completely locked down the islands, opened them up for a little while. I believe they're back on lockdown now. So it's just something we're going to have to manage through this until they can get the tourism industry back open. But obviously, the past 4 months have had significant impact on jobs, which has a significant impact on our residents' ability to pay their rent. Kainani, same thing here. You just see slightly decreasing income from April. Went back up slightly in June and down again in July. Expenses, we're just making sure that those are held under control so that our net operating income remains steady. And again, just under 12,000 for July. Same thing for Kainani. As you know, it's right next door to Halinani. So just the same factors affecting Kainani that are affecting Halinani.
Hey, Brian, those 2 properties, how many units are one of those?
Yeah, 16 units on Kainani and 10 units in Halinani.
So
you can
the drop.
If you have, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the drop in occupancy is how many units in each of those properties?
Yeah, well, you can imagine at Halinani, for example, 1 vacancy puts you at 90% occupancy because you've got 9 out of 10 occupied.
Right.
So yes, every single one has a little bit bigger impact on the property as a whole. Okay, moving on to Southwest. Again, great job on occupancy, which is a little bit, occupancy is kind of a funny number right now because it probably would be lower if we could evict some people. Income, as you can see, took a pretty significant jump in July over June from 55 to 66. Expenses are back where we would expect them to be. I would just point out to you, I put a note on the bottom there that you see the June number of expenses, 13,000. That was really an anomaly because we had over a $17,000 refund in flood insurance, although that was applied in June. So the low to mid 30s is where we'd expect those expenses to be. So right on track. Net operating income, again, you see it moving from the 20s to the 40s and down to the low 30s in July. Rent delinquency continues to be a problem as we have, we have several that just refuse to pay. They know we cannot evict. They know we can't do anything about it. Also know that the rent delinquency is a little bit skewed because some of these people still pay week to week. So from week to week, your delinquency number can take a dramatic uptick or downtick depending on who pays or doesn't pay. And as I said, there's just a significant number of tenants that refuse to pay. I will point out though that we had a really successful July, which is what most of your income is attributed to. We had about 10 people that refused to pay. We got that down to 5. We were able to salvage 5 through what we offered as a one-time 50% offer. I talked a little bit about this back in July during our meeting, but just real quickly, we offered people that had not paid rent in April, May, and June, we offered them the ability to pay 50% of their debt to us, and we would then forgive 50% of that debt. We know that for every dollar we collected, and portfolio-wide, it was about $55,000 because we did it at every property. We know that 99% of that money we collected, we never would have collected otherwise. mess. These people had planned on skipping, they planned on moving out, they were not going to pay us, they had gotten so far behind. So it was a really great offer, and the timing was just perfect, because if we had offered it any sooner, there would really not have been a lot of incentive for people to take us up on the offer. If we had waited any longer, then exactly what happened last Friday, we knew would have happened, and that is the eviction moratorium is likely to be extended. It was not announced yet, but we do feel like that will take place. If that had been in place, then they would have lost every bit of incentive, because they would have known that we still could not evict them for the next however long the moratorium stays in place. But good news is we were able to collect from 5 of those people, which provided significant income, and 5 of the tenants we just we gave out a 30-day notice to vacate on July 27th, and I'll talk a little bit about the eviction process toward the end here. 2405 Park Row. Again, this is Reggie's property. As you know, Reggie Vitos is a co-sponsor here, and it's still through Darwin German Real Estate, and many of you are investors. Again, income in the mid-20s. Expenses were reduced nicely to compensate for the reduction in income. Net operating expenses, as you can see, holding steady around the 14,000 level. Do have a slight increase in the rent delinquency in July, but I have every faith that they'll be able to take care of that. But as you can see, it's not affecting the net operating. At this point, they were able to maintain that. Crossings. This is another property where we've got to do some serious talk, and we already are, about increasing the rent. Yes, even in today's environment of the COVID pandemic, talk about increasing rents, because that property has been at 98 to 100% occupied for several months. Income, as you can see, holding steady in the low 100s. Expenses did take a little bit of jump in July, which lowered our net operating income a little bit, but again, steadily in the high 30s, mid 40s, and low 50s. Rent delinquency, again, a great job. That's a really good number of 1788.95 on that size property. So great job by the staff in collecting every single penny we could possibly collect. Ridgemar, again, you can see the occupancy went up in July. Income down slightly from the mid 40s to the high 30s, just under 40,000 in income. Expenses were reduced slightly though as well in the mid 20s. To keep net operating income in line with where we want it. Again, as I said before, it's never good enough, and we're going to continue to work every day to try to improve. It's just some of these properties have some unique clientele that we have to deal with, and we're doing the best we can. Rent delinquency did take us a little bit of a jump in July, but again, we feel like we can get that under control. It's just that people are really at a point now where they have to make a decision where they're going to pay their rent, or are they waiting out for an additional moratorium. And the announcement last Friday really didn't help us, because it kind of gave everybody the indication that, yeah, the eviction moratorium is going to be pushed out, which led to some of this July delinquency. Ridgemar continues with property improvement projects to get ready for the sale of Ridgemar. Parking lot repairs, tree trimming, other landscape projects, and landing repairs where needed. Okay, here's the fun part. Now that I've gone through the properties and kind of explained to you the performance of the properties for the month of July, holding steady, improving in some cases, slightly down in other cases, but really overall with what we're dealing with with the COVID pandemic, we're really proud of the accomplishments that we're getting on those properties, and proud of the staff and the extra work that they're putting in to make sure that your investments are operating as good as we possibly can. So as I introduced last week, I introduced Darwin the mailman. So I'm going to bring him back for an encore performance and just give you an update on the current portfolio distributions, because again, in July, if you haven't already received them, they were processed late July, very early August. So, but you should have received direct deposits and or checks, or what we lovingly call your mailbox money. So this is my rendition of my version of Darwin, driving to your house and putting a check in your mailbox. And I know some of it's right into the bank account. So here are the properties then in July, and it's the same properties that sent distributions in June. So Amber Vista, Crossings, Halinani, Gold Creek, Kainani, Riverbend, Valley Center, and Villa Creek all sent distributions again in July. So we're very proud of that. We know we've had some comments from some people that have said, hey, should we be doing distributions? You know, we need to set that money back in case COVID gets worse. Here's the bottom line on our decision. As you know, every decision is made in the best interest of the partner. We feel like the properties are stabilized. We feel like we're doing good on the performance. And we feel like, quite honestly, it's your money. So guess what? It's coming back to you in the form of mailbox money. So again, thank you, Darwin, for delivering those checks. And we continue to want more and better from the rest of the properties as well. So that kind of concludes our property performance portfolio update. As I said before, we have an exciting announcement. For many of you, our last 3 offerings from Darwin German Real Estate, which would include Gold Creek, it would include Valley Center, and would include Oakview Raise, were all done through 506C offerings, which means that it was open only to our accredited investors. And we've been telling you all along that we're not leaving our sophisticated investors behind. We are continuously scouring and looking for opportunities, and we do have a great announcement to let you know that, as promised, we have continued to look and we have identified a property. I'm not ready to disclose the name of it yet, but we have continued to search and we have identified an opportunity that will be a 506B offering and available to our sophisticated investors. And guess what? We are completing both physical and lease audit due diligence this week and should be ready to present this opportunity to our family of partners the week of August 17th. So as early as next week, you guys need to keep an eye out for this new opportunity, because this the total capital raise is only going to be about $3 million. So it's undoubtedly going to fill up quickly. So keep an eye out, contact David Tuttle, contact Jeremy Wolcott, and let them know you're interested so we can get you on the list, because this thing is going to fill up quick. After we do our due diligence, everything this week, we'll be able to roll. We'll be excited about rolling this out next week. So hope those of you are sophisticated investors with us, and there's a lot of you are really excited about that announcement. But this time, I'm going to give you just a real quick, if you don't mind, just a minute version of what's happening with the eviction moratorium, because I get a lot of calls on this. Here's the bottom line. Nothing has changed about the eviction moratorium. It still expired on July 26th. I'm sorry, July 25th, the eviction moratorium expired, and we were able to send out 30-day notices. Now, Dallas County has a different ordinance in place, and we had to provide, basically, in essence, it comes down to a 51-day notice, because our tenants get 21 days after receiving the 30-day notice. They get 21 days to respond to us and let us know or prove the fact that they were affected by COVID and still cannot pay their rent, at which point we then have to give them a 30-day notice, which again effectively made it a 51-day notice. But for the rest of the properties, all of our 30-day notices went out to all of our properties on July 26th and July 27th, the 2 days following the eviction moratorium expiration. President did announce on Friday, and those of you who are not following closely, he announced that there was no current change to the eviction moratorium. He basically just told his staff to look into it and see if an eviction moratorium was warranted, if there was another program they could do. I do feel like my best guess, and I'm guessing along with the rest of you, is that it will be extended, but at this point it is not. So for us at the properties, it is business as usual. We've still given out 30-day notices, and toward the end of August, those notices are going to be due, and we're going to expect payment and or to start the eviction process, again, unless there's a change with the eviction moratorium. So that's just kind of a real quick update. Obviously, it changes and people speculate on this on a day-to-day basis. So we'll stay on top of it and just make sure that we keep you informed. Having said that, I'm going to open this up. David, anything you want to add about our announcement on our 506B offering perhaps next week?
No, just email me, david@darwingerman.com, or you can email jeremy@darwingerman.com, and let us know if you're interested in the last 20 spots in Oakview, and we'll have more details on the new deal next week. Looking forward to that one.
Okay, thank you. I do want to say here that my first question comes from somebody in Mexico, and it just says hola from Mexico. So thanks, Jeremy. Hope everything is well down there. And yeah, you can just keep rubbing it in that you're sitting on the beach. But I do want to point out why you're able to sit on the beach, and that's from Wise Investment Strategy from Darwin German Real Estate. So anyway, let's move on to questions. Okay, says here, let me just go through. We got several of the same questions. Wasn't the partner return going to be higher with a PE partner, 20% versus 16%? David, you want to address that? And I'm sure they're talking about Oakview.
Yeah, the overall return would have been higher. The trade-off, and again, just in the simplest terms, is that we would have had a much lower return the first 2 years and a little bit more exposure that if we don't need to use the money, it's not worth the extra return. And Darwin, again, in his message, if you'll look at his video message, he goes into a little bit more detail on it.
Okay, excellent. The next one is kind of exactly opposite. It said, can we buy more like this and not use private equity money? So the answer is yes, we can. They're asking, I'm getting a lot of questions about the status of the eviction ban. I've updated that, so I'll move on. Update for the refinance on the Fredericksburg, please. Again, as I put in the slide, I'm sure before we got to the question. But yes, the refinance at Fredericksburg on 1019 is going to close within the next 2 weeks. And I talked about the returns that were expected that'll go right out to the partner. So again, a success. It's been a while coming on 1019, but I think everyone would agree it's well worth it. Next question. What is the expected timing of the supplemental for Villa Creek now that the tornado damaged units are back online? I'll take that. We really feel like we need at least 60, if not 90 days of stabilized with the new properties back online. So let's say everything came back online in July. Let's say our leasing goes really well. We're now early August. So I would tell you that we need to see really steady, we need to see stabilized from those additional 14 properties through August and September, and then can look at an October timeframe to start making that decision. So we just want to present for supplemental, we want to make sure that we're presenting the best possible case we can for Villa Creek. And obviously, if we can have those 14 units back up and running with that additional income, then it's going to make the supplemental even better for us. So great question there. Okay, let's see here. No, answered that one already. Would it be possible to start including addresses and dates acquired on the property updates? Sure. Let me look and see what we can do with that. One of the things that's kind of a struggle for me is how much information to share. There's a lot of information, obviously, on the financials that we give everybody on a monthly basis, and I'll be glad to answer any additional questions everybody has. At the same time, I will be sensitive of everybody's time and just make sure that we're presenting to you the basics or what we call the key performance indicators for the property. But absolutely, we can provide that information if you'd like it. Okay, let me continue with questions, if you will. Did we present Amber Vista performance or did I miss it? Sorry, it was in alphabetical order. It was the very first one. But again, all of these webinars are recorded, and in the next day or two, you will receive a link where you can watch the entire webinar if you want to. 1019, what month will distribution start? As I put in the slide for 1019, I would expect that very, very soon after the refinance. Again, maybe the second accounting cycle, but as I said before, not only is the income a lot better now, and probably would support a distribution, but we got the refinance closing in the next 10 to 14 days. With return of capital checks going back out to everybody, and then we'll see how everything's going. But remember, our mortgage payment is going down significantly as well. So absolutely, distributions will start almost immediately once we get the refinance closed. So that's just more success for our 1019 investors. Villa Creek, any update on refi? We've talked about that. How will President Trump's executive order on evictions affect our investments? I talked about that a little bit, and again, at this point, your guess is as good as mine, but I do believe that the moratorium is going to be extended. But remember, we've collected a significant amount of money from our people who were not paying due to that 50% offer. And it could be as we get to the end of the year, we're doing this again, but we'll continue to find creative ways to maximize the performance. What we got here? When are the distributions for Brookside going to resume? I don't have a firm answer for you, but we are close. Give me probably till the next monthly update, and I'm sure you'll receive some news. Again, we're looking at it all the time. We just want to make sure the number one rule is protect the asset, protect the capital, and make sure we're doing in the best interest of the partner. So I assure you that's what we're doing. One last question here. Distributions were stopped before the first of the year. Let me see if I can read this. Okay, yeah, it's just, yes, there were 2 or 3 months at the first of the year, and I'll have to go back. We've now been doing distributions again for 3 or 4 months, which is great news because I'm kind of in the habit of that. But yes, there was a pause in the distributions when COVID hit in March. We did that just to be extremely conservative and very prudent with your investment, making sure that we maintain a very, very positive cash position for the properties. Once we saw that we were able to manage the properties through the COVID pandemic and continue to have increasingly good performance, then that's why we made the decision. And again, as I said before, it's your money, and we absolutely enjoy having Darwin get in his mail truck and deliver them to you. So it looks like that's the end of our questions. So I'm going to ask David if you got anything else you want to add before I close up the meeting.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Well, again, just a big thank you from everyone here at the Darwin German team for spending an hour of your time with us tonight. We know you have better things to do, and we know you have a choice where you invest your money. And we promise to live by our motto, which is best interest of the partner. It truly drives every decision and everything that we do. We also understand that we must strive to earn your trust every single day. It is your hard-earned capital you're entrusting us with. We understand that. I hope by looking at the property performances and getting a continuous update that you understand that that's our number one goal, is keeping you updated and driving for better performance. So without further ado, please remember that you can reach out to David, you can reach out to Jeremy, you can reach out to me. Contact us at invest@darwingerman.com. We still have, as David said, we've got about 20 spots only left in Oakview. You saw the positive things that we were able to do with Oakview in the first month, so don't miss out on that opportunity. And again, start calling David and Jeremy ASAP if you're a sophisticated investor and you want to get in on our next opportunity, because it's only going to be about a $3 million raise. So it's going to go and it's going to fill up quickly, but we're excited about being able to offer that. So again, thank you for spending your Tuesday evening with us, and we're out until our next meeting. Thank you very much.